Hello, everybody. I wanted to give you a quick update on what your AP exam is going to entail and what it's going to look like on exam day. So this little video is going to cover two things. The first thing is going to be what is the content on there? So what does the test actually look like and what could they be testing you on? And the second thing I'm going to talk about very quickly is an overview of what exam day is going to look like and what to have prepared for exam day. So starting with topic one, you probably are aware that you will be taking the AP biology exam at home on Monday, May 18th at 2:00 p.m. It is a 45-minute free response, so that's writing exam. And this is going to be two questions. Okay, so two free response questions. What is fair game then on the AP exam? As you know, throughout the year, we've been going through 8 units. We started off with unit 7, that was evolution. You can see that that is not going to be assessed on this year's exam. And when we finished evolution, we went into our biochemistry unit, which was unit 1. And then we kind of progressed through the units in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the units that are assessed on this year's exam. What we just spent the last few weeks looking at, which was unit 8, which was ecology, that will not be assessed on this year's exam. But as we've talked in the past, I wanted to give you a foundation for all of biology, especially for those of you that are planning on going into some sort of biology field once you leave West Allegheny. So you do have all 8 units under your belt, but you will only be tested on the first 6, so units 1 through unit 6. They broke it down percentage-wise, what could possibly be on the test. Now, I think this is what it was before the changes. So just double check those numbers, especially because there are only 2 FRQ questions and there's no way that they can test you on every single topic that we've covered in 45 minutes in 2 free response questions. It's just not possible. Okay. Now, the next section of this document is what the College Board released as far as what the questions are made up of. This is what the College Board said. So this is in their kind of teacher language. And then what I was a part of, I'm part of an AP biology teacher group of Western PA. We had a Zoom meeting and we took these descriptions and put them into more like easy, friendly, student-centered lingo. So let's first look at what the College Board said, and then we'll kind of break it down and put it into a little bit more simple language. So free response question number 1 is probably going to be some sort of data in a table or in a graph, and it's going to give you some sort of biological scenario. Most likely, just in years past, what we've seen on the AP exam, they come up with really out there type scenarios. For example, there was one about mollusks. There have been some about specific proteins with crazy names, specific bacteria with crazy names, specific organisms with crazy names. And the point is, you don't need to know what those specific organisms or proteins or processes are. You just have to understand the biology underneath it. So, for example, the question about, I think it was mollusks, it was really a question about osmosis. So a hint, something that you can kind of work on as we review over the next couple weeks, is looking at these questions and kind of asking yourself, okay, what is the biology underneath this? What is it really asking me? Try not to get overwhelmed with the crazy names, because again, most likely they're going to give you something that you've never seen before, an organism or a process or something that you've never seen before. But really what they're asking you about is going to be something that you do know. Okay, so I digress there. So question 1 is probably going to give you some sort of data, some sort of graph, and you're going to be asked to analyze that. You will not need to graph anything. Okay, because again, you're going to be answering these questions either in a typed document or you're going to be handwriting these and then taking pictures of them. They will not ask you to graph anything on this exam. Okay, so question 1 is probably going to be 4 parts. Part A says describe and explain biological concepts, processes, or models. And that again is going back to what I was talking about a few minutes ago. They're going to give you some crazy scenario potentially, and your job is going to figure out, okay, what are they really asking me? If it's a question about mollusks and they're giving you hints about things about osmosis, you should be able to say, oh, okay, this really isn't about the organism, it's really just about osmosis. So that's what part A is saying. What concept, what content did we cover in class, and are they asking me about? Part B, identify and justify experimental design procedures. That's going to be going back to the beginning of the year when we did things like independent variable and dependent variable and control group and experimental group, and kind of justifying, okay, this was a good experiment because it had all of those components. So that's what part B is talking about. Part C is analyzing data. So again, that's going to be looking at the data in a table and analyzing it, or looking at a graph and analyzing it. But you're going to be looking at some sort of statistical numbers to kind of analyze that data. And then part D is kind of getting you to make a prediction about something. So most likely it's, if this changes, what would happen, right? So predicting what would happen. So question 1, we broke that down into much simpler, again, kind of student language down here at the bottom. So a graph that either needs interpreted or a chart that needs to be interpreted. You may have to design an experiment, or you may have to figure out from the experiment what's the independent variable, what's the dependent variable, etc. And then we're thinking maybe some sort of error bars that we'll review here today. But basically, this is kind of what I set up above in shorter student-centered things. You will have 25 minutes to read and answer this question, and then you will have a 5-minute upload time. And the second part of this video is going to be, okay, what does that mean? Okay, so how do I upload? How do I answer this? We'll talk about that here shortly. The second question is what we're calling the short question. This is some sort of scenario or some sort of biological phenomenon. So again, it's going to be talking about real organisms that you may not recognize, like we said, mollusks or bacteria or proteins or something that's real life. And the key thing here is that there's going to be a disruption to that system. So think like enzymes, right? When enzymes are in their normal environment, they're functioning properly, but then there's a disruption, what's going to happen to it? Or if we're talking about the mollusks and they're living in an environment where their osmosis is keeping them isotonic, and then they're moved to a really, really salty location, that's a disruption, right? So that's what we're talking about. And this is probably going to be broken down into 4 parts. Part A and B, if you notice, are the same. So you're going to be asked about biology, right? So can you explain osmosis? Can you explain enzymes? And it's kind of like those two same things are very similar here. Do you know the content? Do you know what you're talking about with biology? Part C is going to be, okay, if there is a change, if there is a disruption to this system, what's going to happen? Or we can also say what could have caused that disruption, right? What could have happened to cause that change? So part C is now looking at that disruption, that change to the system. Part D, support or justify a claim with reasoning or evidence. So again, they are going to maybe have you predict something or give you a prediction, and then you have to say, this is true because, right? Notice how I'm using the word because when I'm talking about the word justify. So think when we did claim, evidence, reasoning, when we did CER, that's kind of what they want you to do here. Same thing down here, we wrote that all out for you. So biological concepts, things that change what's going to happen or what caused that change, and then claim, evidence, reasoning, the CER that we've been doing all year. This, because it is a slightly shorter question, is going to be a 20-minute read and answer time and then a 5-minute upload time. So that is kind of a quick overview of the content. What could be on the AP exam? How are the questions set up? The next few minutes, let's kind of look very, very briefly at how you're going to answer this stuff just quickly, and then we will get some practice on this later. At the bottom of this document, I included a link for the AP testing guide, which I have put up over here already. This is a document summarizing everything that you need to know about what you need to do before test day, what you should do during test day, and so on. I sat in on a webinar last night and we went over this testing guide in detail. Right now, we're just going to look at some important features of this. And this is kind of the overview of what's in the guide. The e-ticket, what to do before exam day, and then what to do on exam day. So the first section, your e-ticket is going to look something like this. They are going to email this to you with the email address that you have signed up with your College Board account 2 days prior to your AP exam. If your email is not working for whatever reason, this will also be in your My AP College Board account. So it will be there. Okay, this is yours. This is dedicated just to you. And they have all kinds of things in place where they're using this so that they can prevent any sort of cheating. This, again, if something crazy happens on Monday, May 18th, and you have some sort of crazy emergency or all of your power goes out or your internet goes out, whatever you do, do not use your e-ticket. If some crazy situation happens and you are not able to test on that day, do not use it. This is how they're going to know that you need to do the June testing, okay? But this is only for extreme circumstances. If it's just like, hey, I didn't wake up till 2 o'clock, that's not an extreme circumstance. Okay, so Monday, May 18th is our exam. If you would need a makeup exam, you can talk to Mrs. DeBoer about that. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because we are going to be taking the test on May 18th, unless, again, something's going on. Okay. The next part I want to look at is how we're going to answer these questions. So once you get logged into the test, you use your ticket, you are sitting there waiting for the test to begin, there are 3 different ways that you can answer your question. Option number 1 is you would have your AP exam browser open, and you would also have either a Google Doc open or a Word document open, and you would be typing your responses into that particular document, okay? They suggest having this already set up before test day and making sure that the web browser that you're using is not Internet Explorer. Okay, we cannot use Internet Explorer for this. We have to use Google Chrome or Firefox or anything that's not Internet Explorer. Okay, so you're going to have your 2 web browsers open. You can either then copy and paste your written response into the test, or you can upload and attach that document. You cannot type directly into the web browser, into the website, into the test. You either have to copy and paste it, or you have to upload your attached response. We will be having a practice on this on May 4th. There's a tutorial, there's a demo that we can use for these 2 ways. Let me pause the video because I think I'm only allowed to go to 15 minutes, and we'll pick up on the next video.